You had a cycle of films, 1949, which was called the Problem Picture Cycle. You had Pinky, Lost Boundaries, Home of the Brave, 49, Intruder in the Dust. This takes us into the 50s. Finally, Sidney Poitier comes on the scene in No Way Out. He's a dignified doctor.
What is it, Dr. Brooks?
This man has stolen a scalpel. He's got it hidden on him. I want him searched.
Hand it over, Biddle.
I ain't got it, Doc.
We have this positive image of the black man, but there's one thing the black man could never do. He could never strike back a white man on film. Not having it. Not having it. 1933, Paul Robeson in Emperor Jones. He escapes from prison. He hits a white prison guard, strikes him. That was cut. If you look at the film, you see it was edited. It was cut. They didn't want to show a black man striking a white man. So what I'm doing, I'm leading up to the images of blacks. There's a film now, we fast forward, there's a film called Phoenix City Story. And Sidney Poitier was offered the role. He turned it down. James Edwards got it. When you see the film, you see why Sidney turned it down. It's sort of like, for those who watch Blaxploitation, what was going on in Bucktown.
Mm-hmm.
So you had that image, but these boys were running it, and they were running it, and they just ran roughshod over the people, and there was an attempt by white newspaper editor, and they ran them for office to change things, and James Edwards plays a janitor, and they take to shut him down. They kidnap his daughter, brutalize her. They have a drive-by, and they throw her dead body out on the side of the road, and she rolls. And where do they throw her out? On the front porch of the white guy who's making an attempt to try to change everything, the element that's going on. Brought tears to my eyes. I saw this and I said, oh my God, this is horrendous. James Edwards, who's the father of the little girl, he comes in contact with the guy who did it, and he's ready to fight him, ready to kill him. And his wife says, no, you can't do it. How would God...
Yeah, you have to turn the other cheek.
Turn that other cheek crap, you know?
No, Mr. Patterson. Don't do it, Mr. Patterson. Please don't do it. If your father was here right now, he'd say the same thing. You can't take the law's vengeance into your own hands. He killed Ellie. That don't make it right to kill him. Listen to me. Back there a few minutes ago, I was going to beat a man's brains out. I was going to take his body and throw it out of a car like you did my little girl. But my wife, she took my arm, and she said, no. Please, Mr. Patterson, no, don't do it.
Now, this same film, you juxtapose it to a later era, Sam Jackson, Time to Kill, different era. What Sam Jackson's able to do, we know James Edwards couldn't do because of the times, the zeitgeist.
Right. And that was the time that preceded this Blaxploitation era.
So I'm laying down what I'm being inundated with. So the man was Sidney Poitier, and he does a film. It was a big hit on TV first. A Man is 10 feet tall, Edge of the City, when it went to the movies.
Mm-hmm. John Cassavetes.
John Cassavetes. And they kept Sidney, because Sidney did the TV version as well. Mm-hmm. Who was more beloved than Sidney? Mm-hmm. So what they do is, now, the racist white in Edge of the City, he can't stand Sidney. Oh, he's making these racial remarks and whatnot. He just can't stand Sidney because they're dock workers. Mm-hmm. Sidney, he has his own little group. And Jack Warden, who's the venomous, rabid racist, he can't stand Sidney. So Sidney's character takes to John Cassavetes. John Cassavetes is AWOL running, and Sidney takes him and helps to get him settled and whatnot. They become the best of friends. And Jack Warden doesn't like this, and he's after Cassavetes because Cassavetes is so close to the black man he doesn't like. Long story short, Jack Warden is telling Sidney to mind his own business. Why are you always into this? And he wants to get into a fight with Cassavetes, and Sidney steps in. You don't want him. It's me you really want. They get into a fight with the hooks. And they do the little tricknology. Because you know the black audience is going to be highly upset if you don't do this correct. Sidney gets the upper hand on Jack Warden. And he says, what is this all about? Why do we do? There's no need for this.
This doesn't make sense.
Walks away from Jack Warden. Jack Warden in the back with that hook. You talking about somebody who was mad as hell? I said, no. Fast forward, we get into Blaxploitation. All right? What were we not allowed to see in film?
You can't see black men shacking up with white women.
Exactly.
You mentioned you can't see a black man strike a white man.
Yes. Let's stay with those two.
Okay.
But the thing I'm talking about, what I've been focusing on last few seconds, is the fact that you couldn't have a black man strike back a white man. In fact, your boy Dick Gregory used to have it in part of his comedy routine years ago. He said, you could never see this image. You know how he talk? You could never see this image. That white man would have to kill his dog, stomp on his grandmother, rape his wife. He just laid out a whole bunch of stuff. And then maybe they'll let him strike the white man. I said, if I could find that, I said, I want to have that, just because he was so right on with that. But anyway, we couldn't see it. And as a black man, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. Psh, man, they done called you every name in the book. They done mistreated you. And you have to accept it. And only person who can take up your cause is the good white guy. Sick of it. 1967, in the heat of the night, and I'm quoted in a book, Gary Knowles' book on Black Hollywood. I don't know if I was the first one to say it, but I called that a scene in that film, for me, I feel that what Sidney was allowed to do in the heat of the night was the start of Blaxploitation.
And what was that scene?
Sidney's helping investigate a murder in the South, and he has this suspicion that this rich Southern white guy may be the one who committed the murder.
Cotton. This here is Virgil. Mr. Tibbs.
How do you do, sir?
Oh, may I have Henry fetch you something? Some light refreshment?
No, thank you. We're right the way we
Oh,
are.
I'll have something cold. Something soft. Anything.
Henry, bring in a pitcher of lemonade. I have one, too.
Yes, sir.
The implication is there, this Southern racist white guy is insulted. First of all, who is this black man to be questioning me like this? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And slap Sidney. Sidney slaps him back. We all said, whoa, the whole nation. Whoa, I called it the slap heard round the world.
And that was a precursor to Blaxploitation.
Right, because what happened is, what are they afraid of? They always say, we can't show all of this. Why? They always used to bring up the Southern box office. We don't want to upset the Southern box office. There was always this sensitivity to how whites would react to certain things. They never gave a darn about black sensibilities.
Mm-hmm.
But 1967 and Sidney, 1967, #1 box office star.
Mm-hmm.
He had the biggest films of the year. In the Heat of the Night, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, and To Serve with Love, if I'm not mistaken. Because, you know, the boy's getting old. But Sidney was the man.
Well, you're pretty sure of yourself, ain't you, Virgil? Virgil, that's a funny name for a nigger boy that comes from Philadelphia. What do they call you up there?
They call me Mr. Tibbs.
My name is Charles Woods, and you're watching Reelblack.
I'm writing a script now. Remember Rip Van Winkle? Remember? Mm-hmm. My Rip Van Winkle's black. He falls asleep. There's a man being lynched. He sleeps for 100 years. He wakes up, a man's being lynched.
Well, black folks is like a bunch of crabs in a pot of hot water. Once one gets to the top, they pull them down. That's the water that's making them do that, nigga. It ain't the crabism.